When it comes to tapes we use in upper making, it's a little bit confusing because there are many of them. In this short video we are going to talk about 4 reinforcement tape and an extra one which is a double-sided tape. So this is the first one we are discussing. This is roughly 1 inch wide, or you prefer 2.5 centimeters. This is a pretty strong tape for lacing reinforcement. So the purpose of this one here to reinforce this part of the shoe. This is where only have a little bit of a leather, so when you lace a shoe, this tiny leather might not be strong enough to hold the laces. That is why we sandwich this tape between the lining and the upper, so it gives the extra strength. So this is gonna be a nice and strong shoe for many years. The next tape is the reinforcement tape. There are many parts in the shoe upper where the leather is just not strong enough to give the right support. Let's say here around the corner, so all the pieces are skived, and when you lost the shoe there's a great amount of stretches going here, so it's better to be safe than sorry. We're going to put reinforcement tape right there. Also, if you want to keep the top line tape in the right shape, you might consider to reinforce it if the leather needs it. At the back seam, the top of the back seam, this is kind of essential to make it very strong. Otherwise, when you remove the lost from the shoe at the end of the process, this is probably the most vulnerable part. The reinforcement tape, you can easily identify it. Let me show you with my own tape I use. So I'm gonna cut off a little bit. The texture of it is hardly anything, but it's really strong. So if you take a piece of tape just like that, you normally should not be able to tear it. So it's really strong, give the right amount of strength for the leather. This tape here is the backline tape. The backline tape has roughly one function: to reinforce the backline, keep it in its position, and it has a lot more texture than the reinforcement tape. And actually, I'm going to show you again with my own tape. So this is not what you can use for reinforcement, and it's really important to keep in mind, because not like the reinforcement tape, you can actually tear it in half. But luckily that's not the function, so it's gonna do one function, and I will show you exactly what it is. So this is the seam type where we're gonna use this tape. So it has a good amount of volume, so it feels thicker than the reinforcement tape. And I'm going to put it in the top of the seam, keep it tight. So if this would be a back seam, this would give the right amount of shaping. To make the top really strong, I would just use a couple of centimeters long reinforcement tape, put it like this across, and that's how my top lines actually look like. The function of the top line tape to keep the top line of the shoe intact, hold the shape, and don't let it stretch. Whenever we sew these top lines, we have practically 2 layers of leather, and both of them are normally skived. So there's a great chance that during the lasting process it's gonna lose its shape. That is why we use top line tape. So I prepared this piece with a little bit of a skiving on the top edge. So I'm going to add the top line tape here. I'm going to place it 5 millimeters from the edge, just like that. You can use your folding hammer to attach it. And for the record, you just don't want to do it by hand because it's supposed to be really strong. because the next step I'm going to add a solvent-based glue. If the solvent will dissolve the adhesion here, it's gonna pop off, and that's actually why we need to fix it. Now I'm going to add glue in here. And this is just regular rubber cement. And after this seam is folded, the top line tape will be in the folding and give the right amount of strength for the top seam. So the rubber cement is actually a pretty good cement for upper making. Probably this is the cement what you want to work with when you want to have a very clean work, but there's a major problem. The major problem is here. You have a leather which is shiny, and for whatever reason you want to keep it like that, and you can't sand it. So I'm gonna put the glue here just like that. Now, when this is a flat, straight seam like this, there's no problem. I'm gonna put the other layer on it and it's gonna be just fine. But when I have to work in 3D, the tension is a lot bigger. So if I don't sand the layers, it might be that they're gonna pop apart very easily actually. So the adhesion is not really great. And here it is. See, the minimal effort, I can actually rub it off. There's no not much adhesion here. And exactly for these seams, we have double-sided tapes. Double-sided tape comes actually in two different width. This is a 1/4 inch, so roughly 6 millimeters. I'm going to put it in here, just like that. It's nice and clean. You can use it on suede, nubuck, or actually even patent leather. So just to be sure that the adhesion is strong enough, I use the folding hammer. And then here's the other piece I'm gonna put there. And all I need to do is just peel this layer off. So fold it like that. The adhesion to the little tape is on the leather. So I'm gonna peel this off. I don't need this anymore. And I don't need to wait, this is right away ready to work with. So I'm going to put it in there. And this is actually surprisingly strong. This is ready for the stitching.